I, F29, am almost at my breaking point after my husband, M27, walked in a room and asked, "What have you been doing for the last 20 minutes?" while I've been working my ass off. How do I convey the severity of my feelings? Me, 29F, and my husband, 27 meters, have been married for 2 years and just had our first child, who is 11 weeks old. With a newborn, there's a lot more work to be done around the house than before, and I've had a difficult recovery from birth. We've gotten into a routine at night where he feeds the baby her last bottle and puts her to bed, because he's at work all day and doesn't get to spend time with her. Typically, while he does that, I start the dishes and clean up. Tonight, I decided to throw in a load of laundry, clean up our car, pick up the living room, and hand scrub a piece of clothing that had formula spilled all over it rather than starting the dishes. I consciously made this decision because my husband actually knows how to do the dishes, as opposed to a lot of the miscellaneous things that need to be done around the house that he's largely blind to. Husband came out after spending about 15 minutes feeding the baby and asked me what I had been doing for the past 20 minutes, once he saw the dishes hadn't been done. I flipped out because I'm exhausted and burnt out. He insists he asked because he was just curious and doesn't understand why I'm so angry. Am I overreacting? To me, the question does not seem innocent and makes me feel like he doesn't appreciate everything that I do. It also makes me feel like I don't have the space or allowance to relax if, God forbid, I needed a break, even though I was cleaning. He has asked me this question many times before, to the point where I'll have started making mental lists of things I accomplish in case he asks. Also, I am not a stay-at-home mom. I have a high-intensity and demanding job and am returning from maternity leave in a few weeks. I am almost at a breaking point. My husband used to treat me like a princess, especially when I was pregnant. Now I feel like he has no appreciation for me or how hard this has been. How do I convey the severity of this without it seeming like I'm making a huge deal out of a little comment? TLDR. My husband asked me what I've been doing for the past 20 minutes after I had been working my ass off, and it's almost got me to my breaking point.
My 26M, GF26F, won $30,000 and spent it all. How do we move forward? Hey everyone, looking for some advice on a situation with my girlfriend. We've been together for about 4 years and she recently won $30,000 at a casino. Originally, we talked about using the money for big future plans like a house down payment or a dream trip to Japan. But instead, she has spent it all on high-end personal items for herself, designer clothes, jewelry, a luxury car upgrade, and more. 2 years ago, the roles were reversed. She was jobless and dealing with health issues, and I covered all her living costs. I never expected anything in return and did it because I believed in supporting each other. However, seeing this large sum spent entirely on personal luxuries without considering our shared future has left me feeling disappointed and somewhat taken for granted. I'm struggling with how to address this with her without it blowing up into a major conflict. I want to communicate how this makes me feel and discuss how we view and handle finances as a couple moving forward. It's important to me that we both feel secure and aligned about our future. How should I bring this up? What's the best way to have a constructive conversation about expectations and financial responsibility in a relationship? Thanks for any guidance you can provide. TLDR. Girlfriend blew a windfall without consulting me.
My 27F, husband, 27M, not picking up the pregnancy test I requested might be my breaking point. What do you think? TLDR. I put a pregnancy test on the grocery list and my husband didn't buy it because he determined it wasn't necessary. Reality check. Is it obvious that a pregnancy test is an important and urgent grocery item? My husband is in charge of grocery shopping. Last time I put a pregnancy test on the list because I'm 7 days late. We just had our second in January, so it's unlikely, but I'm very anxious, in part because I had 2 preemies and would immediately want to consult with my OBGYN on how to keep this baby in as long as possible. He knows all this. Of course, I could run out and get a pregnancy test myself, but with a small baby and toddler, that's not too much fun. I'm inclined to ask my sister, 25F, to pick one up after work. She's our neighbor, but I'm dreading his reaction from past experience. I'm convinced he'll see it as me punishing him by involving my sister in something private to us. Also, in part, it's also about what it stands for me, another in a long list of instances where my and the kids' needs for care and consideration are not met. Especially because he didn't check back with me, calling me from the store or something, but just single-handedly determined that my peace of mind wasn't worth a few bucks and minutes of finding it. I'm assuming he's subconsciously avoiding the anxiety of a potential pregnancy and doesn't want to know, but it's just hard being dependent on someone to a certain extent when things like this happen. Am I expecting too much by not wanting to ask and explain myself several times for him to respond to my requests? What are your views on me feeling it would be way less emotionally taxing to set our lives up in a way where I depended on him as little as possible? Thank you so much. I, 25F, am pregnant and my husband, 27M, suddenly wants to move back to Belarus. Suddenly he seems to think he has the right to make decisions for both of us. How do I manage this with a clear mind? My husband and I live in Sweden. I moved there with my family when I was very young as my mother is Swedish, however he only moved here about 7 years ago. We were together for almost 6 years, and we married each other about 6 months ago. I found out I was pregnant about 2 months ago. I'm about 13 weeks pregnant now, and everything seems to be going well. All our tests have been clear so far and I am healthy. My husband and I are both very happy, and I'm quite excited to be having a baby, although nervous. I was very nervous about pregnancy, hence why it was an accidental pregnancy, but so far it's been all right, other than the nausea. This was until my husband told me he wanted to move countries. I am still a dual citizen of both Sweden and Belarus. My husband also is. However, I feel no need to go back there. The last time I did was when I was 13. I've lost most of my Russian, and I don't like the situation over there. Most of my family is here, and I've always felt more at home here than I ever have there. My husband explained he had applied for a job there, and he thinks we would have a better life there, and so would our child. I got really upset. I told him that he can't just make this decision for the both of us, and that I don't want to go back there. It scares me. I don't want my child in that environment, and I like the Swedish schools and way of life more. I knew my husband missed Belarus, but I never thought he wanted to go back. He got annoyed at me and said I wasn't thinking in the best interest of our child. I was honest and said that if he made me go back there, that I would divorce him and do everything I can to go back home, and that he can't make me, and that I'm not going and I won't go. He yelled at me and said that he was my husband, and that it's not up to me to decide how our life will be. I told him that he never said that was how he saw marriage, and he was being archaic. He seemed to calm down, but later when we were sleeping together, he got far too aggressive and his hands ended up on my throat. I managed to push him away. He didn't hurt me, but I was worried about the baby. But he then started for some reason complaining about how dramatic I was being about this whole pregnancy, and I seem to think it makes me entitled to decide everything, and he wasn't even being that rough. He's never acted like this before. It's like he thinks he can control my life and our future child's life. We're supposed to make decisions together, not just one of us. I'm starting to think I can't stay him. It's not just about moving countries, it's the way he seems to think he's entitled to decide my whole life just because he's my husband. I've always thought that men have no more rights to make decisions than women in a marriage, as that's the point of a marriage. We're together. My brain is a mess right now. I'd always thought I loved him, but now I look at him and I realize that I just can't do this if he carries on like this, and I feel so stupid for not seeing it before. I don't know if it's the hormones or my own emotions becoming too involved, but I'm really doubting this right now.